David slays Goliath. Again, the Philistines sent their army to attack Saul, so the Israelites went out to meet them in the valley of Elah. The Philistines stood on a mountain on one side of the valley, while the Israelites stood on a mountain opposite them. A man named Goliath came out from the camp of the Philistines. He was a giant, over 9 feet tall and weighing hundreds of pounds. He wore a helmet and thick armor made of bronze, and he wielded a large spear. Goliath came into the valley and cried out,
"Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us."
When Saul and his army saw Goliath and heard his challenge, they were terrified. No soldier was brave enough to fight Goliath, even though Saul had offered his daughter in marriage to anyone who would slay him. At this time, David's father sent him to the camp with food for his brothers stationed there with the king's army. While David was there, Goliath came out into the valley between the camps and repeated his challenge. David quickly decided that he would fight Goliath. He told his brothers this, and they laughed at him. His oldest brother was even angry, thinking it was pride that led David to think he could kill Goliath. But David persisted. He approached Saul and said, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him," Saul replied, "for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth." "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father," David replied, "and when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Then he placed his own helmet and armor on David. But David said, "I cannot go with these, for I am not used to them." David took off Saul's helmet and armor. Instead, he took a sling and 5 smooth stones. And he went out to meet the Philistine giant. When Goliath saw David, such a tiny boy compared to his own massive stature, he laughed and cursed him.
"Come to me," he shouted, "and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the field."
David answered the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with the sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand." David then took his sling and whirled a stone at Goliath, striking him directly between the eyes and sending him tumbling to the ground. David ran up to the stunned giant, took his sword, and cut off his head. The rest of the Philistines were shocked at the outcome of the battle. They fled in terror. The Israelites pursued and killed many of them. When they returned from the pursuit, they sang the praises of David, who was now the nation's hero. Saul then became jealous of David for the praise he received. Even so, Saul insisted that David come live with the royal family in the palace. There, David became great friends with Saul's son, Jonathan, a noble young prince who sought in every way to do the will of God. Jonathan and David came to love each other like brothers. the two young men swore that they would always be loyal to each other. One day, as a sign of undying friendship, Jonathan took off his royal garments and his sword, bow, and belt, and gave them to David.